are questions that we still can't answer as well. But we are going to do our best to get you the answers that we have and can find as soon as we're able to. I think the big question that all of us wonder is, will we be back on campus this coming semester? And as you saw from the most recent message from President Ensign, that decision will be made sometime in probably mid-November. But there are many things between now and then that we need to do in order to get you ready to be successfully transitioning into the spring semester at Dickinson. We will, throughout the course of this presentation, be answering questions via the live feature, as Amy mentioned before, the chat feature, but then also we are going to have time for some questions and answers at the very end. So this was really our purpose for coming together today. We want to help you make the transition really smoothly to Dickinson. We want to talk you through some of the big deadlines and experiences that are ahead of you in the next really few weeks. And also hopefully break this into some very, very small, measurable, one at a time kind of steps for you to take. The 3 things at a time message, that part is going to make a whole lot more sense as you transition to Dickinson and you see the way our student life staff oftentimes communicate is actually through highlighting 3 things that are really important for this semester. I've seen them do that this semester, and I know that it's been really helpful to many of our current students, so a little bit of an inside joke there. But my profession is not comedy, as you can tell. I am on the advising side, and what I'd like to do is give you a little bit of an introduction to what this experience is going to look like. After I do that, then I'm going to transition over to Angie, and she will talk to you a lot more about the student life side of things. So as many of you know from previous conversations with admissions and then also with potentially our staff over the course of the summer, the advising experience at Dickinson is faculty driven. You will have a faculty member who will serve as your academic advisor during the time that you are at Dickinson. While you're undeclared, that academic advisor will be your first year seminar professor. So until you declare your major, your faculty advisor will be your first year seminar professor. And then when you decide that you want to major in a particular topic or particular major department, excuse me, then you'll be reassigned to a faculty member who is an expert within that particular field. We work very closely in conjunction with our faculty advisors and really provide the supports and structures to make sure that the advisor and advisee relationship is really strong. And so you will see a lot of communication coming out from me on behalf of our Center for Advising, Internships, and Lifelong Career Development that is guiding you towards, again, systems and structures that make hopefully that relationship between you and your advisor that much more organic and organized and confidence building. Whether you're working with a faculty advisor or with us, our focus is really on developing what we refer to as authentic interest. And for us, that is really, as I have on this little image here, authentic interest is our way of describing learning through applying things that you've actually experienced in real life contexts and situations. And for us, authentic interest is that sweet spot where your personality, skills, priorities, and values intersect. So that term may be a bit new for now, but you will hear it over and over and over again as we are working with you. And the reason that we approach things this way, as opposed to just purely an academic focus or purely a career or outcome driven focus, is that we realize that the choices that we make in the things that we study sometimes are very linearly connected and sometimes are not. And all of these various things that I just mentioned, personality, skills, priorities, and values, those interact in ways that sometimes we realize and sometimes we don't, but are all important and equally important in the discovery process as you identify and confirm and then pursue those interests. So that's a little bit about the big picture. In terms of real next steps, the first thing that we're going to need you to do is to rank order your first year seminar preferences. The due date for those is right around the corner, October 15th. There are 6 different first year seminars that are going to be offered in the spring, wide variety of topics. And the the purpose of the first year seminar is for you to learn how to do research and writing at a college level, and hopefully a topic that you'll really enjoy. It is really important for me to note that the first year seminars are not connected to what your major may be. So if you are a student who thinks you know exactly what you'd like to major in and you don't see a first year seminar that's connected to that, please don't worry. That's not the intent of a first year seminar. It's really to introduce you to research and writing in a way that, as I mentioned, piques your interest. It is a very quintessential kind of liberal arts experience in many ways. The topics for first year seminars are very wide. I believe that if you have not yet checked out the communication that came out on Monday about first year seminar options, Amy probably could add that into the chat field if she hasn't already done that. But this is an exciting time. What you'll do is you'll rank order 1 to 6, which ones you would like, and then you'll learn about your assignment early in November. The faculty members who are teaching each of those courses are seasoned advisors, and I'm very confident that your experience with any or all of those faculty members will be very positive. In terms of beyond that, so step 1, first year seminar preference. Step 2, I want you to start thinking about the path that describes you best. And for some of you, we had some preliminary conversations over the summer when we were still in preparation for the fall. When we think about your emerging intellectual interest, and when we think about the purpose of the new student advising process, what we're doing is our goal for new student advising is for you to choose courses that fit your interest for a schedule that totals 4 or 5 credits for next semester, 4 or 5 credits. At Dickinson, we keep it very simple. 1 class equals 1 credit. Your first year seminar will be one of those 4 courses, or one of those 4.5 courses if you're taking a half credit dance or music course. There are different ways of approaching this, and I want to make sure to normalize, no matter which kind of path you're on, it's completely and totally, it's wonderful. You know, whether you are still really exploring options widely, or you know exactly what you want to study, or you've narrowed it down to somewhere in the middle of the two. All of those paths are wonderful, and we're going to meet you where you are. There'll be a whole lot more communication, communication coming out after your first year seminar is assigned that kind of walk you through the next steps. But I wanted to at least get you thinking about those different ways that you'll be approaching the first semester. Big picture, at Dickinson, you need 32 credits to graduate. 1 class equals 1 credit. That's 4 classes per semester. And, you know, some will bring in transfer credits, AB, IB credits, things like that. And we can talk a little bit more about that if any of you have specific questions around that. But understanding big picture our degree requirements, typically about 1/3 of those 32 credits are within whatever you will be majoring in. 1/3 are within the distribution requirements, which are things like humanities, math, humanities, quantitative reasoning, laboratory science, art, US diversity, global diversity. I won't list them all out there, but they're about typically 1/3 of the total number of courses that you need to graduate. And that's really the really rich breadth and depth to the liberal arts curriculum that you'll receive in that aspect of the curriculum. And then the additional 1/3 of those electives typically are electives. The additional 1/3 of those requirements are typically electives. So there's a whole lot of flexibility in those courses. Placement exams, if you already took your placement exams during the summer, you do not need to retake them. We still have those scores. If you are interested in retaking your placement exams since the summer, then let us know and we can inquire about whether or not that can be reset at the departmental level. New student advising will take place the week of November 7th to 14th. Course request, November 16th to 18th. And then you'll find out which courses you received in mid-December. I just want to real quickly make sure that I help you understand the importance of the first year seminar next semester in terms of helping you make the transition. I mentioned that your first year seminar professor is your advisor. The students that you are in your seminar with are going to likely be some of the students that you see most during your time next semester. And that's because your classes or your first year seminars are meeting either 2 or 3 times a week, depending on the particular seminar. And so you spend a lot of time with each other. And those seminars are really a big focus on discussion and thinking through problems together. And so I think it's going to be really important for you to know that those are people that you will probably get to be pretty close with, or at least ideally begin to make some good, strong relationships with during the transition here. I also just want to kind of bring up, and this is really the final piece that I have before I turn over to Angie, the role of what we call a launch tech. So 2 years ago, Dickinson combined or integrated academic advising and career development because we feel like there's no way to do a very strong experience without combining those two things, and recognizing the fact that for many students and for many family members, especially many parents, thinking about the outcome or the career, even before you begin to come to campus is a really big deal. And so each of you will be assigned what we call a launch tech that are points of contact within our center, in the Center for Advising, Internships, and Lifelong Career Development. And that launch tech will work with you throughout the time that you're at Dickinson. A bit of a case manager in many ways. That person will help suggest opportunities for engagement outside the classroom, encourage and monitor engagement with our center throughout the time that you're at the college, guide you towards concrete resources and programs that will prepare you to pursue your goals in the wider world, and then work very closely to support the work of your academic advisor. And so I just want to introduce that concept. You will formally learn much more about that during orientation, or just after orientation, I should say, in the spring. But that's going to be another relationship that is very important as you navigate your time at Dickinson. Okay, that was a lot in just a little bit of time. Happy to answer specific questions. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Angie.
Great, thanks, Tara, so much. I work in student life, and part of our responsibilities is to orient you to campus. A lot of orientation actually is about preparing for your academic program, and Dean Fisher just talked a lot about those aspects of orientation. Outside of those, specifically related to academic advising, there's other content that we are going to ask you to participate in, to give you information about what it means to be a student at Dickinson, and in policies and even just pieces of our culture that you need to know kind of moving forward to be a student. And so I've kind of broken this down from a timeline perspective, but really you are kind of starting the orientation process by starting to complete some of the things that Dean Fisher just talked about. One thing that will happen prior to January actually is you will be assigned an orientation assistant, and that will be an upper class student who will help you get through the bulk of the orientation program. And so we anticipate that you'll learn who your orientation assistant is in December, prior to what has traditionally been our winter break. So prior to kind of the holiday season, that we will start to talk about. You'll be contacted by your orientation assistant. Again, that's going to be a sophomore, junior, or senior who likely helped some of your peers go through orientation in August, and then will help you go through this in preparation for the spring semester. We will have you participate in the same in the same program, in the same method of delivery as we had the other students that started for the fall. And so your orientation will be primarily virtual. And so that content will all be available, and you will kind of be able to navigate through a kind of checklist through the student gateway. And there's a tab that's called Student Forms, and deadlines, and it kind of helps you navigate through all of the pieces that you have to complete prior to coming to campus. And so once you have confirmed that you're coming to campus, you will start to have access to what we refer to as the Dickinson Gateway, and that will allow you to have access to some of these forms and some of this content. So the virtual orientation, the bulk of the orientation program will be available starting January 18th. And that and you will have basically the 18th through that week to finish watching and participating in those programs. Most of the content will be information that you can go through at your leisure when you have time available. It'll be asynchronous content that you can go through at any time. There will be a few live synchronous sessions that we will ask you to attend, and we will get you those dates and times as soon as possible. But just keep in mind that for that week of January 18th, as you're going through orientation, there will be pieces of in particular, we'll do a welcome session where we'll have all of the new students come together and likely hear from Dr. Ensign and other leaders on campus. And in addition, there will be some other live events that you'll participate with online. Now we are moving forward as if students are coming to campus as it would be a typical semester. And so as long as Dr. Ensign announces a decision that your class will be returning for the spring semester and classes start on January 24th, January 25th, this is the timeline that you would move to campus and arrive to campus at a very specific time on January 22nd. There could be some early drop off for students who live close to campus, but otherwise we'll have you schedule a very specific time to arrive to campus so that we can spread out traffic and move in traffic and not have everyone kind of in too close of proximity to each other. And then we will have some welcome weekend events for you to get to know other first years, to get to know the campus. All of those events will happen on the 23rd and 24th, again, with the proper protocols in place. I just have to reiterate that this is an assumption that everyone's coming to campus. We want nothing more than to have everyone on campus in the spring, but we really, health and safety is driving that decision, and we look forward to, as Dean Fisher announced at the top of this program, that she's going to make a decision in likely early to mid-November. So you can go ahead to the next slide, Tara. All right. So I wanted to also talk to you about some things that you can start doing right now to help to start to engage within the Dickinson community and to get to know some of your friends. Hopefully, you all have been engaging with a roommate and getting to know a roommate. Hopefully your RA has been in touch with you. And so we really do hope those things are happening. And in addition to that, you also have access to events that are happening on campus. If you go to the link that I have here, dickinson.campuslabs.com/engage, it will allow you to see any event that you can attend, even as a currently deferred student in your gap semester. And so I encourage you to check those events out, and you might find some really interesting things, and you'll start to get a sense of the opportunities that we are offering to students while in this remote semester. Another way to find out about things that are happening is really following the residence life and the student leadership and campus engagement, which we lovingly refer to them as SLICE. Following those accounts on Instagram is also a really great place to start. to start looking for engagement opportunities and things that you would be interested in participating with outside of the classroom. And lastly, I'll highlight that in December and January, prior to the start of the spring semester, we will have our annual Emerging Leaders Retreat. And that retreat is a program for first-year students to really understand how we approach leadership at Dickinson, understand kind of the leadership theory behind our approach, especially with clubs and organizations and leadership outside of the classroom. It's one leadership theory that we introduced, but there obviously are many opportunity are many different ways to view leadership. We'll introduce you to one that we ascribe to in student life. And then it gives you the opportunity to get to know other first years who maybe started this semester, or maybe are taking a gap semester like you. So that workshop and retreat will be available to you. So we will make sure to get that information to you as long as you confirm that you're coming in the spring. It will be available to you, and we will get that information for how to. There is a nomination process, but you can self-nominate, and so that will be coming up within the next several weeks. We'll be putting that out, and it will be a program that goes through December into early January. So you'll be able to focus on it without having to worry about any of your classes. Typically, it's a retreat that happens on campus in person the weekend prior to classes starting. But we are in these COVID times, we have transitioned it to a virtual program for this year. This last slide is a little bit overwhelming, but it's really actually just takes the list of forms that is available on the Dickinson Gateway and gives you an idea of what's coming and what you need to do. Some of you may have already done some of these things. And in fact, I think it came up in the chat that someone maybe had already taken their placement exam. So some of these deadlines may not apply to you, but I do just want to run quickly through them. In particular, I want to highlight this disability accommodations request. If that is relevant to you, that deadline is coming up very quickly. And so you will not be able to fill out the form for this request until you have confirmed your status and acknowledge that you do plan to start in the spring. And so that deadline does come up along with your first year seminar selection form. Those things come up pretty quickly after the deadline this Friday. So I wanted to highlight them. But then you see that there's another set of deadlines coming around the November 5th and 7th. And then you get a little bit of a break, and there's some other forms are due by December 1st, and then January 8th. Don't be too overwhelmed by this. You'll see this at another, you will be able to access this at any time through your Dickinson Gateway. And I think that's it. That's all we had today. We can open it up for some questions. I don't know, Terry, if you want to maybe, since there's just a small group, we could take down the PowerPoint and talk to people face to face.
Absolutely.
Yeah, most people have their video off, which is fine. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question or ask in the chat, either way.
Yeah, so we do have a question in the chat that I would like your input on. A student who completed their placement exams in the fall, will those results still be counted for the spring, or will they need to retake those exams?
They will still be counted. Yeah, and those automatically we still have in our system. And so, yeah, no need to retake them. I've actually spoken with a couple students who were a bit nervous about whether or not they would still be, placing at the same level, even after just a few months of, say, not doing a language. And if that is a concern, reach out to me and let's talk through what our options might be, because there are some departments that are willing to reset tests. So many people are happy to have already had that finished, right? One thing off of that long list of to-do things. But if you want to talk about that, please let us know. If you have AP or IB scores that you haven't sent in to Dickinson, a score of a 4 or 5 on AP or a 5, 6, 7 on IB, higher levels could be college credit. And so if you have those scores and haven't yet sent them in, it is important to go ahead and do so, so that during our new student advising conversations, we can make sure that we have all the right information to help lead you into right courses.
I have a question about my AP scores. So for my Spanish AP scores, is there any deadline as to when I need to get those in to receive credits?
Hi, Christian. Well, I'm guessing you're Christian based upon the talk with you. I would say it can take a little bit. It can take sometimes up to a couple weeks to get those in, and so I would encourage you to go ahead and do that. We've got exactly 4 weeks until new student advising begins for the spring, and so timing, I'd say within the next couple of weeks, go ahead and get that sent over. That would be great.
Great, thank you.
If you're interested in knowing what is going to count for what, on Dickinson's webpage, if you just pull up in the search field, if you just put in AP scores, then I believe it's the very first option that pops up there. It gives you if you get such and such in a particular topic, what type of credit that translates to here. Thank you, Amy.
I have added that to the chat, so anyone who would like to reference that, please go ahead and do so.
Other thoughts, worries, wonderings? I know I communicated with at least one of our participants that said their mic is not consistently working. So please just know that I'm happy to take it anyway. I think, one of the things that may be that we may not necessarily be able to convey is the excitement, the student excitement of your class, of all potentially being together, right? In whatever form that happens. Angie, in looking back maybe on this past semester, on maybe some of the virtual orientation things that even happened, or different events that maybe have happened on campus, any thoughts you could say, maybe help them get a sense of how connection is happening? I know you mentioned roommates, you mentioned orientation assistants.
Sure, and I think we've tried to facilitate, and we'll continue to do so no matter what the spring looks like. But we've tried to facilitate through different opportunities to engage in smaller groups through the virtual RAs. Also, obviously, you'll meet your orientation assistant, and that will also help you get to know another kind of smaller group of first years as well. Once you're able to kind of think about what kind of clubs and activities you might enjoy outside of the classroom, we will have an activities fair. We have one at the beginning of each semester, and so we did that virtually in August, and it went well. I think that's how a lot of students have been able to get connected to upper class students, is through with shared interest, is through joining clubs and organizations who have been meeting typically virtually through Zoom or a similar platform. I think back to it seems actually August seems like it was forever ago in some ways. So, but I think that's just the nature of what we're doing right now in our work. But thinking back to orientation, I think that it was really exciting once we had your class, the active members of your class on with Dr. Ensign and having kind of a group conversation. In fact, as Dr. Ensign and the other speakers kind of wrapped up the program, students just stayed on Zoom for more than an hour, just kind of talking and get to know each other. And so I think that there are a lot of informal opportunities and ways that you and your peers can find ways to just hang out via Zoom and get to know each other as well, until we're able to do so in person. we really do look forward to that. And I can't really speak to the likelihood of that occurring for the spring, but I do know that eventually we will be in person, and I really look forward to that day for you to be able to really get the Dickinson experience and see what it's like to be on our lovely campus, but also, being able to interact with your peers and the other students in your class. And we will do we really will work hard to help you integrate into your class and help you get to know the students that started this fall.
I think one thing that will naturally lend itself to just exactly what you're describing is first year seminars will be filled with students who are all just beginning, right? This semester is either their first semester full-time taking courses at Dickinson, or through Dickinson, I guess I should say, or also students who have deferred for this semester. So you're going to be in the same boat, everyone, in your seminar. And so that will, I think, naturally lend to a lot of conversations, and you'll be in it together. Trying to think of other things, maybe any worries, concerns.
Well, if people can't think of any right now, that's okay. I have put my email in the chat box. I am your point of contact going forward. I know for the international students who have worked with Shua Yan in the past, you'll be working with me. So everyone's coming in through me. Be in contact with me. I am happy to answer your questions. I'm happy to direct your questions and put you in touch with anybody else throughout campus, including Tara and Angie. We are here to help demystify this process to make this as easy for you as possible. So be in touch with me. Like I said, I am your point of contact. I am your resource. Nothing is too small. Nothing is too big. But I expect to hear from all of you over the next coming weeks.
Great. Thank you all so much. We're looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. Take care.